Lots of the questions are still unanswered. So, beginning my talk, hepatitis C virus is an RNA virus and it belongs to family Flammiviridae. And this is a virus which is having a very high replication rate, and approximately 10 to the power 12 virions are released. And this is the virus which lacks the proofreading ability, as a result of which any mutation is there, correction is not there. Because of the high replication rate and because of the lack of proofreading, there is a generation of the genetic diversity. The more than 8 different genotypes has been described with more than 100 subtypes. So they basically differs in the difference in the nucleotide sequences. Whenever the difference is up to 30%, then it is a new genotype. Among the genotype, they are further divided to subgenotype when the difference in the nucleotide is approximately ranging from 15 to 25%. Apart from genotype and subgenotype, there is quasi-species also, which is basically a group of the viruses which are genetically distant, but they resembles to each other, and the difference in the nucleotide diversity is up to 10%. Now, this is the virus. This is an RNA virus where the genome is 9600 kb. This virus is translated into a single open reading frames encoding 3000 amino acid. Now, this single polypeptide is further processed by the various host and the virus proteases, results in the production of several proteins. These proteins are broadly classified the structural proteins and non-structural proteins. Structural proteins includes the core, E1 and the E2, and non-structural proteins includes P7, NS2, NS3, NS4 and NS5. These non-structural proteins are the ones which are helpful in the replication, and they are the conserved region of the virus, which is conserved across the genotypes, as well as they includes lots of CD4 and the CD8 epitopes also, because of which these non-structural proteins are the potential candidates in the vaccine to generate adaptive immune response. Unlike the structural proteins, which are quite variable, these are the ones against which the humoral immune responses are generated and are the targets in the vaccines. So why do we need a vaccine? The discovery of DA has basically revolutionized the treatment of hepatitis C virus, and the WHO has led the goal to eliminate the threat by 2030. But however, to achieve this goal, just treating the patients with the DAA will not serve the purpose. The vaccine can be a missing link to achieve this goal, because majority of the patients in hepatitis C are asymptomatic, and by the time they come to us, they have already developed the chronic infection. The screening and the treatment on such a mass scale is again a logistic issue. Apart from that, the DAs are there with achieving a cure rate of more than 95%, but still their cost and their accessibility in the developing countries like India, as well as compliance in a high-risk population, is again a matter of concern. And the discovery, the DA has been discovered in the last 7 to 8 years, but still again due to the RNA virus with lack of proofreading, there is an emergence of the drug resistance with these drugs as well. And the most important factor, why do we need a vaccine, is that even if we treat the patients with the DA, the cure is achieved, they are always at a risk of a reinfection. And apart from that, the complications like cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma often develops in the patients 10 to 20 years even after achieving a cure. So who can be the potential candidates if we have a successful vaccine? The high-risk population, the ones IV drug abusers, men having sex with men, healthcare workers who are more prone to such infectious cases, and the people who are living in countries with a high incidence of hepatitis C virus. Before going into the type of the vaccine, just have a look on the immune responses, which will help us in basically understanding the concepts for a vaccine. Like any other viral infections, whenever the virus enters into the hepatocyte, there is an activation of both humoral immune response and adaptive immune response. Lots of studies have shown earlier that it is basically the adaptive immune response which plays a significant role in the control of hepatitis C virus, and the role of humoral immune response was still unclear. So what actually is happening is And the concept for vaccine was based on the fact that whenever the person acquires the infection, 20 to 30% of them are spontaneously able to clear the infection, so some kind of immunity is existing. And such types of patients, when reinfected, then the chances of getting the duration of the viremia and the magnitude of the viremia is again very low. So such types of the patients, even on the infection, are able to clear the virus in a large amount of number. So some kind of immunity is there, which is protecting them from processing it, further processing it to the chronic hepatitis. So what happens is when a person is infected, is undergoing the acute viral infection. So whenever the virus enters the hepatocytes, enters into the hepatocytes, the CD4 T cells, especially Th1 and Th follicular cells, results in the activation of CD8 T cells either directly or indirectly via the dendritic cells. Apart from that, the CD4 follicular cells also helps in the activation of B cells. Now what happens is that now these CD4 Th cells, when activated the CD8 T cells, there is an increase, the CD8 T cells get activated, there is a cytotoxic activity, there is a destruction of the infected hepatocytes. Along with the other CD4 cells like Th1 and Th17, there is an increased secretion of pro-inflammatory cytokines, interleukin 2, 21 and interferon, which in turn leads to the cytokine storm, leading to the inflammation and causing the further destruction. And these B cells on activation further leads to the generation of various antibody secreting cells. So antibodies are released, which in turn leads to the neutralization of the virus. So there is in the acute infection, the activation of B and T cells are very rampant, in turn leading to the decrease in the viral load, and the patient resolves the infection. And by the time now, the patient will have a repertoire of the memory B cells, memory CD4 cells, and memory CD8 T cells. Now what happens when these kinds of the patients get reinfected? When they get reinfected, there is already a pool of memory B cells. Following the reinfection, these memory B cells get further differentiated into effector T cells, and there is a rampant immune response, which in turn, because of which the magnitude as well as the duration of the viremia is low in the cases with the reinfection. So now these are the cases, the huge amount of the pro-inflammatory cytokines are there, cytotoxic T cell activity is robust, because of which the virus clear, and again the patient will have a repertoire of the memory B cells, which in turn will help him in other subsequent infection. But what happens is when the patient is having a persistent infection or in the chronic infection, when the person proceeds towards a chronic infection, the amount of available CD4 and the CD8 cells are already decreased. So less amount of activation of B cells and the T cells will happen. Apart from that, Th1 and Th17 cells, which are secreted interleukin 12 and 21 interferon, pro-inflammatory cytokines, are also further decreased. Apart from that, there is an increase in the expression of the Treg cells in the chronic infections, because of which the activity of CD8 T cells get a bit inhibited. So less amount of the activity of the CD8 T cells are there. Apart from that, studies have shown even the B cells activation and the production of the antibodies during the chronic infection further also decreases. Apart from that, the virus is again very smart. These viruses, because of the continuous immune activation, antigen expression, they undergo certain changes. So there is a certain mutation in the virus, because of which they escape the neutralization by the various antibodies. Apart from that, they also undergo certain changes, because of which they escape the recognition by the MHC class 1 CD8 T cells. So these types of the viruses again persist. In the chronic infection, what basically happens is, what we say is, there is a CD8 T cells exhaustion. So these CD8 T cells, because of the continuous antigen stimulation, further propagates into two different types of phenotypes. These are the memory-like CD8 T cells and exhaustive T cells. Memory-like T cells are different from the memory cells because they express the production of inhibitory protein, that is CD1. And the exhaustive cells are the ones which have the increased expression of inflammatory molecules. Along with that, the memory precursor, that the CD127, is not produced. So these two groups of the CD8 T cells, memory-like and exhaustive CD8 T cells, they are the ones which have deficient replication activity. Their proliferation activity is reduced. Their functionality is also reduced, as well as their ability to secrete the certain cytokines is also reduced. So now when the patients with the chronic hepatitis will have a pool of memory-like CD8 T cells as well as exhaustive CD8 T cells. Now when the patient comes to us, we give the DA. The patient got cured. So what happens when we give the DA to them? These exhaustive CD8 T cells get lost following the treatment. However, the memory-like CD8 T cells persist. But these memory-like T cells, as I told, they have a limited functionality. So they will not be able to prevent the infection from the subsequent infection. So immunity following that, therefore the patients following the DA are always at a risk of getting the reinfection. So initially it was said that it is just the adaptive immune responses which is helping us out, but later the studies have shown no, just merely adaptive immune response will not serve the purpose. They are the humoral immune responses also, which plays a very significant role. And for the to generate the humoral responses, we basically target the structural proteins. These structural proteins are E1 and the E2. They are highly glycosylated proteins and they exist in the form of the heterodimers. These are the proteins which basically helps in the entry of the virus into the hepatocytes. So targeting these antigens will definitely help in preventing the entry of the virus into these hepatocytes. So this is basically the structure of E1 and the E2. They exist in the form of the heteroderm. This is known as the stem in a hand. That is, the stem of E2 is basically held with the help of E1. So just coming into detail about the E2 proteins. So E2 protein is the larger protein as compared to the E1. It is variable, it is not conserved, and there are the certain regions in the E2 proteins against which the antibodies are targets. And these regions has been given different names. Either some of the literature say they are divided into domain A, B, C, D, and E. And some literature say divide them in the basis of the epitopes. So remember, it has a hypervariable region 1, hypervariable region 2, and hypervariable region 3. And there are certain domains. The broad neutralizing antibody, so in the humoral responses, the types of antibodies can either be a neutralizing antibody or it can be a non-neutralizing antibodies. So the broad neutralizing antibodies will be the one which will provide the protection across the different genotypes as well. So these broad neutralizing antibodies are formed against domain E, D, and B. So these are the regions where broad neutralizing antibodies are formed. In contrast, the sites which are located towards the end of the E2 protein near the back area are the ones which are non-neutralizing. E1 protein is a smaller protein and it is very less characterized protein. Only two regions has been well defined till date, and these are the two regions, N-terminal till the 272 and the conserved region. So studies have shown that broad neutralizing antibodies are found against this region and this region. So what are the different strategies for a vaccine? So for any viruses, we can have different vaccines which can either be prophylactic or it can be therapeutic. Prophylactic ones are the ones which basically inhibits the establishment of the infection, and therapeutic are the ones where even the virus infection has been established and then we want a cure. With the advancement in the DA therapy, the approaches for therapeutic vaccines has not been further followed. And considering the genetic stability of the genetic diversity of the virus, it is very difficult to attain the sterilization protection. So lots of efforts is going towards achieving the goal of preventing the chronic infection, because it is not the acute infection which is a problem to us. It is the chronic infection which is creating the further morbidity and the development of the complications. So now the vaccines are targeted with the aim that even if the infection is occurring, our main purpose is to prevent the persistence of the virus, which in turn will decreases the progress towards a chronic infection and the further development of complications. However, the development of a successful vaccines faces several challenges. There is a genetic, as explained, because of the genetic diversity of the virus, there's a high rate of the mutations. The virus is very smart enough to escape these immune responses. The virus is also smart enough to escape adaptive as well as the humoral immune responses. There is a lack of inefficient in vitro cultures which can tell us the correlates of the protection, though the discovery of hepatitis C virus cell culture and the pseudoparticles have deepened our knowledge. There is a lack of small immunocompetent animal models which could directly show the replication of HCV infection which happens in the human body. Chimpanzees are the best models, but because of the ethical issues, they are now no more used. The use of certain transgenic mice has also helped us in understanding, but these mice models, they are the ones which are immunocompromised and they never develop SCC or the cirrhosis. So using these models, reflecting the true infection is still a matter of debate. There is always a difficulty to define the study population on which the trials can be done. Though lots of efforts has been now done on the high-risk population, especially the persons who inject the drug users, and the lack of economic incentives. So in spite of having all these challenges, several types of the vaccines has been developed and are broadly classified into vector-based vaccine, subunit vaccine, virus-like particle, DNA vaccine, combination of the DNA and the vector vaccines, and recently inactivated vaccines and mRNA vaccines. All these types of the vaccines which I have enumerated has undergone the preclinical studies, and only two groups of the vaccines, that is the vector-based vaccines and the subunit vaccines, are the ones which has reached up to human trials. So I will be first discussing about the vaccines candidates in the human trials, followed by those in the animal trials. The first vector-based vaccine was the combination of two adenoviruses, vector-based because they basically enhances the immunogenicity. So two different types of the adenoviruses was taken, adenovirus 6 and chimpanzee adenovirus 3 from the genotype 1b, and as we are targeting the adaptive immune response, so NS3 to NS5 genes were used, and in the phase 1 trials they have shown that these vaccines generates a robust HCV-specific CD4 and the CD8 T cells. Lots of memory cells were also produced which were functional and they were maintained post 1 year following the boosting dose. Apart from that, the adaptive immune response which was generated was helped to provide the protection against other genotypes also, that is genotype 3A, but with reduced magnitude. But this phase trial concluded that we didn't find any beneficial effects if we used two different types of adenoviruses. There was not much boosting efforts by using these two adenoviruses. So what they did, in spite of using two adenovirus, they replaced it with another virus vector, which is modified vaccinia virus. And the phase 1 trial of this vaccine, they use a prime boost strategy to enhance the immunogenicity. That is, first they give the first dose of the vaccine, which uses the adenovirus 3, followed by a boosting dose with a modified vaccinia virus, and the study shows that they have a very significant robust immune responses which were tried to protect the protection against the different other genotypes also. Following the success of this trial, the biggest ever hepatitis C vaccine trial occurs, where they try to study the immunogenicity of this vaccine in persons with who inject the drugs, because they are the one at a high risk. And but what we got was a very disappointing result, that in spite of showing a very significant good results in the phase 1, the phase 2 trials were failed to show the prevention of the chronic infection, because the chronic infection develops in both the arms. Though, and the CD10C responses was produced in 78% compared to the previous phase 1, where all the patients produces T cells immune response. So which in turn leads to think about it, what is wrong with that trial. So they first say that this was a vaccine which was targeting only the adaptive immune response. So the addition of the broad neutralizing immune response is again very essential for any vaccine to be successful. Apart from that, they say that these trials are done on the persons who inject the drugs. They are the ones which is slightly decrease immunity. And the first trial was done on the healthy individuals, healthy volunteers, which might be the reason for the such skewed result. Apart from that, they also concluded more efforts are needed to develop a vaccines which is incorporating the different genotypes and their diversity. Another vaccine trials which have entered into the human ones are the recombinant. They uses the GT1 and the GT responses. The vaccine was found to be safe, and neutralizing antibodies were made against the target E1 and the E2. But however, the type of protection means these antibodies were able to provide protection against the other genotypes is still a matter of concern in both these trials. Now, these are the different lists of the vaccines which is still in the animal trials. I can skip. However, these animal trials have shown that the vaccine is able to provide the protection against the chronic infection. But these results are not really reciprocated in the human trials when they are conducted. So, to conclude, despite the various challenges, several types of hepatitis C vaccines has been developed, and they have gone into the various human trials also. But with the main objective of the hepatitis C vaccine is to prevent the viral persistence rather than preventing the infection. The two most promising vaccines are the ones which use the vector-based or the recombinant proteins. However, lots of studies are still required to develop a successful vaccine with a broad neutralizing effects, as well as hepatitis C specific CD4 and the CD8 T cells, which in turn providing the protection across the different genotypes. Moreover, lots of research are required to study the correlates of the protection, how much for duration these immunity has been produced by these vaccines, whether they are providing the protection against the genotypes, and what are the vaccine formulation is still answered questions. So it's a long way to go to achieve a successful vaccine. DC base cells has they have used the NS3, NS4, NS5 regions, and adaptive immune response, they have used dendritic cells as a delivery system. They have entered a phase 2 trials, phase 1, sorry. They have entered into phase 1 trial. From this, they have used in mRNA E1 protein. I feel getting a vaccine is like a dream, and in spite of chasing that dream, we must focus the things which we have in our hand. That is screening and treatment, which is again an issue in our country. Lots of the cases still undergoes undiagnosed, and they are the ones which are source of the transmission also. So I feel rather than a vaccine, much focus should be there on the screening and the treatment.
Absolutely right.